All right, so another episode of It's Still Real to Me. And of course, we want to have guests every now and then. And joining us here, Jonathan Hood. All right, ESPN 1000 in Chicago does mornings there. But also, Good Karma Wrestling every Thursday night. They live stream at 7 o'clock. Busted Open on the weekends with Justin LeBar, the greatest pro wrestling show in the world, Busted Open. There you go. Hood showing you the Good Karma Wrestling logo right there. Love having you on the show again. We've had you on Zaslow Show 2.0, but I like having you here specifically now for It's Still Real to Me, because let's just get right into it. I want to talk pro wrestling with a guy who certainly is all over the place with wrestling. So thanks a lot for joining us again on the show. And the first thing that I want to ask you about here, so this past weekend, I've been talking about Backlash here today, and you turn on that show, and just the crowd is so hot right from the get-go. It makes such a difference when watching pro wrestling, especially being there, because you love being a part of it. But when you watch pro wrestling, when you got a crowd like that, it makes the world a difference, man.
Oh, my God. It makes me wonder, Zaz, like, what are we not doing in North America?
Yeah.
Right? So we watch Leon France, and the crowd is molten hot. It's unbelievable how that crowd went. Because, hey, I don't know when's the last time WWE was there, but there was always this talk, you got to come to France, you got to come to France. And they come to France, and what I really loved about it is that everybody on the card is treated like a star. You know why? Because they are all stars. They are stars. They treat everyone like a star. And then here in North America, okay, we can't wait for the main event, or we can't wait for the first match. Randy Orton, find someone in your life that loves Randy Orton like France loves Randy Orton. Honest to God, that crowd, they played his song 3 times as.
Yep.
When he came out, they got to hit the loop button because here we go. Got to play the loop button because they love this guy. I don't know the last time that he was in France, but the fact is that the fans love KO and they love Randy Orton. What a great way to start the pay-per-view, right? Those two coming out there, it was just unbelievable. And so as I watched that, I sat back in my chair and I thought, my God, we in North America don't match that every week on Raw or SmackDown. Those people love WWE. They love the idea that they get put on their phones, and then here comes main event Jey Uso. I've never seen anything like that either. It just seems like Puerto Rico, UK, France, these fans are just into it, man. And I love it. It's a great visual.
Love it. I was texting a buddy of mine, and I'm like, this show is wild. And it was only the middle of the first match. Yeah. I love it. I love them doing these internet. As long as I can't go, if I can't go to the show, go international and get me the great crowd, because from a visual perspective, it's so much fun. What is something right now? What is your favorite recent change in WWE? Obviously Vince being out, there's been a bunch of differences, some of them subtle, some of them more out there. What's been your favorite recent change you've enjoyed with WWE?
Okay, so from a wrestling standpoint, it's the story and Triple H taking his time telling the story. For many years, it was like, here's a 2-week build, here's the pay-per-view. Here's a 3-week build, here's a pay-per-view. The stories were not stretched out for us to be able to see chapter and verse all the way to a pay-per-view. It was always rushed. Hey, I don't like you, you don't like me, let's put it on a pay-per-view. That's not a story. That's just a match. So from that standpoint, you're telling a story. Like this whole thing with the bloodline. It's a long-form storyline. It's still going. It's in the bottom of the 4th right now. So it's still going on, right? Because there's more Polynesian stars that are on their way to WWE. On the other side, for you and I that love the business, either audio or visual, and that is did from that standpoint. They changed the way it looked from a visual standpoint. You are able to get the camera backstage, and it leads right out to the wrestler going out to the arena. It's like the subtle things too.
Yep.
You can see a promo, and then there's something going on behind over the shoulder of the wrestler. Hey, what's going on there? That ties into the story at some point. So from that, it's a subtle change, Zaslow. But the point is, though, is that it's totally different than what we've seen 25 years ago under Kevin Dunn. I'm not going to throw Kevin Dunn on the bus because that's the way he looked at wrestling. That's the way he thought that the quick camera cuts here and there was what was needed. See how different it is? It's more the camera is calm. They're telling stories. There's a different way to produce the show, and I think that puts me at ease as a wrestling fan. I think that's really cool the way they do it.
That's my favorite recent change as well, is the presentation. It comes off more like a sporting event, which I like. Obviously, you and I, we have sport backgrounds. The quick camera changes, like I like not having that anymore. And the camera bouncing up and down when there's quick strikes. Like, I like that we don't have that anymore. And I'll tell you what, this may not have been a popular opinion. I was not a fan of Michael Cole. I know he has been polarizing in the past. And now, I guess because Vince is not in his ear, like, I'm not there. I don't know what goes on backstage, but apparently that had always been a thing, that Vince would be in the ear of his commentators. And I find Michael Cole over the last year to be a completely different broadcaster. So from a visual standpoint and also from a commentary standpoint, I think it's an incredible improvement on the product.
You know what, Zaz? I didn't know Michael Cole was a wrestling fan for 15 years. I know that sounds crazy to some that's listening to the show, but I didn't know he was a wrestling fan like you and I are a wrestling fan. I didn't know that. I thought it was a talking head because he wasn't Jim Ross. He was more visually pleasing to Vince and to the upper management. And they said, let's put this kid in here. He's a backstage guy, but he looks good on camera. He was a CBS, war correspondent, but you know what? He looks good on camera, so let's have him replace Jim Ross. But then you hear him now. This guy's giving you notes from New Japan. This guy's telling you stuff about, casually about AEW, but not really saying it. But he gives context. It's more than just the homework. He sounds like a guy that watches the product across the board outside WWE. And because of the way he was produced, he couldn't talk about anything else except WWE, which is fine. Brand protection, if you're Vince. I understand. Nothing in the world is more important than WWE. But I think it made Michael Cole very stagnant and very structured, kind of like the WWE was. But now when you hear him, he's more likable because he sounds like one of us. You see these little cameras, right, where he's getting excited about the action. It's like the camera's on the desk and he's just going nuts and watching that. I'm like, I know he knows the camera's on, but at the same time, though, you could tell, like, oh, man, he likes the product. It's more than just him having a gig. He actually cares about professional wrestling. When Cody Rhodes wins a championship, what does he say? I love professional wrestling. I know there had to be like an 800-pound gorilla off of his shoulders for him to just say that, because he's never said that he never said that in an open mic before. Couldn't do it, but now he can. Now he can.
Yeah, they're not treating us like we're stupid anymore. He'll make references to, you know what? There is a world of wrestling outside of WWE. Sometimes it's okay to make a reference, and they will call back to past feuds or things that happened in the past. They're not treating us like we're stupid anymore. I used to hate that, where they don't reference things in the past. Like, incorporate it into the story here. I remember it. Let's talk about it. So that is my favorite thing, recent changes. Tell me, you're super versed, obviously, in the world of pro wrestling outside of WWE as well. So for someone like me, and I know what I know, but I also know what I don't know. So at Backlash, when Tonga Loa shows up, and like you said, there's so many more of these Samoan wrestlers who are going to be included and incorporated into the bloodline. And Tonga Loa shows up and he helps Tama Tonga. I know their brothers. Haku is their father. They were a tag team, apparently. Were they tag team in New Japan? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Gorillas of Destiny is one of the best tag teams that New Japan's ever seen. And the reason why that they resonate, okay, they have the connection to Haku because that's their dad. That's one. But two, that's what we're seeing with those two, and it'll evolve in WWE television. They are not the Usos at all. They're not. They're not dancing for you. They're not doing like the whole thing with the fire and like they're twirling the stick and all that stuff. Zaslow, they're not doing that. No, they're dangerous.
They're killers.
They're killers. That's the difference between the two, right? People think they're going to do jazz hands. Oh, no. They were bloodthirsty killers in New Japan. all part of the of that group over the years. And so I've watched them wrestle. I've always thought that they were great. I always thought, how come they're not in the United States? At some point, they got to be in WWE. And I don't know if, first of all, Vince McMahon had no idea who they were. I'm sure he didn't, but Triple H did. And that's, you talk about differences. He knows where the talent is. Going back to the days of NXT when Triple H was running it, where did he bring in? Veterans off the road. He was bringing in independent talent and put them in the WWE system. Same thing here with this. It just gives the bloodline a whole different dynamic. People will start to find out with this more serious bloodline led by Solo Sikoa that those two coming in, the Guerrillas of Destiny, oh my God. Zaslow, this is, you always saw little trickles of blood here and there, right? In WWE, which you haven't seen in years. Watch these two. These two are serious competitors. There won't be any smiling and dancing and all that kind of stuff. Those guys are about it. And you'll see the difference between Bloodline 1.0 and Bloodline 2.0 with these two coming in. And by the way, and there's more coming. There's more Polynesian wrestlers coming. Like Jacob Fatu's coming too. Like that's another one. I don't know what side of the fence he's going to be on, but it's him. There's more New Japan. I was at a New Japan show. God, was it 3 weeks ago? Windy City Riot. When they were here, there was Polynesian wrestlers wrestling. So I'm like, okay, more are coming to WWE.
And I love how Michael Cole called them a rogue bloodline when Tongaloa. That's a great name for, or at least for the broadcast. A rogue bloodline is developing with Solo Sikoa. So we're clearly leading to Jimmy and Jay, because Jimmy's off of TV for a little bit. They beat the shit out of him. We're leading to Jimmy and Jay getting back together. And when Roman returns, holy shit. Like, that's going to be some type of babyface run that Roman's going to have, right? Like, how far away do you think we are from Roman returning?
Let's see. So he's doing a movie right now. It's May when we are having this conversation. So May, June, July. You can build this up all the way to SummerSlam in Cleveland.
You think it could be that long? SummerSlam, it could be.
I mean, to get this match in the ring. If Cody Rhodes is at the top as a champion, the bloodline is like 1A as far as storylines. So could you see Roman Reigns and the Usos coming back together in a six-man against Solo Sikoa and the Guerrillas of Destiny? That could happen, but there's more coming that will be part of this mix as well. So you have a combustible dynamic here between these two factions, and then there's Paul Heyman in the middle.
Yeah.
John, here's the thing that we got to get to. Paul Heyman, he's scared to death because he has no control, right? This is the best. He's scared to death. That's his new role now, just to be scared to death. Like, I have got no control. I got no phone. I can't call Roman Reigns anymore. Like, he's just there. He's forced to throw up the ones now. He's forced to do it because now Solo Sikoa says, you know what? I've been behind the scenes for a long time here. Okay, I haven't said a word, but there's no Roman anymore, and like Jimmy Uso's out. I'm the leader. I'm the guy of the bloodline now. Wait. What about
because Roman? This is Roman's doing, though, right? Because Roman told everyone Solo is the heir apparent, and Roman's gone right now. It's like, this is Roman's fault, right?
Yeah, but where's the lay though? If you're going to be the guy, where's the the red lay? Where's that?
That's right.
I only see the Hawaii games. How come where's the lay for Solo Sikoa? Where is
right.
it?
That's a good point.
Well, I'm just saying. Listen. I'm a guy that likes to take a look at the particulars, Zaslow. You see, I mean, I'm looking very closely, with a magnifying glass. Where is the lay? There's no lay. He's just stepping in there saying that he's the guy. I mean, he's dressed there. He's got his black outfit on, and he's got the chain. Like, that doesn't make him the tribal chief. But I just find it all fascinating. I really do. I just think that this is so much, but it adds to where the WWE is going, slow and steady, chapter by chapter, leading you into someplace. This is really, really fun.
Are you enjoying Punk and McIntyre? I think it's good. I think it's been great, and I hope we get a really good payoff in the ring. I'm very much enjoying what's going on here.
Me too. This is the best work that McIntyre's ever done.
Yep.
Because he's not a heel; he's a troll. It's a whole different category, Zaslow. Like we know baby faces and heels, but now he's a troll, and that's totally something different. And now he's getting pissed off because now CM Punk is trolling him. And so I would agree with you that it's a great tertiary story for WWE. I just need to know when these guys are going to be healthy enough to wrestle. Like, how long will this take for them to actually have some physicality and get it in the ring? And what happens afterwards? Does CM Punk stay healthy afterwards? See, he's hanging on by a thread, man. I mean, I love that he's a 5-star promo, but my God, man, if he can't stay healthy, it's kind of like here's a match and he gets hurt. Okay, so now he can talk, but are you really the best in the world if he can't stay healthy? So that's the hope, is that he can stay healthy and move this thing along with he and Drew McIntyre. It's fun. It definitely is fun, and it builds anticipation. How about that story?
I love a slow burn. I'm good with it. I love hanging on to it. Who do you think is next for Cody? Do you think that we're still going to get a little bit more of Cody and AJ?
Great question. I heard what he said in the press conference, and I don't know if he was talking off the top of his head or if he's really letting us in on something. Someone in France asked him, so now that you beat AJ Styles, who's your next opponent? And he just kind of thought about it for a second. He goes, I think about LA Knight and what he's been able to bring to the table, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, do you really want to go baby versus baby in that spot? Sure you want to do that? Like, are you because you don't want to divide the audience. LA Knight is good without the championship. I think he's at least top 5 in merchandise. I just know when I go to a wrestling event, people are saying, yeah, they're just doing it just because of LA Knight. They're just giving him a shout out, right? So he's over. Championship. I thought the LA Knight, by the way, at the time that he was in Saudi Arabia against Roman Reigns, I just thought that was totally premature. There was no reason for him to be in that title match. I know the Crown Prince probably wanted that because that's the booker. When you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to the embassy and they just say, like, here you go. This is the matches I want. And Roman Reigns, and Triple H says, okay, all right, these are the matches you want. All right, here we go. You want Undertaker back? You want Shawn Michaels? Okay, here we go. I mean, because it's not a real event. It's a house show with lights. That's what it is. It's a house show with lights when they go to Saudi Arabia. So, it could be LA Knight. There could still be meat on the bone with AJ Styles.
I think we're getting more AJ. I don't think that's done. I think we're getting more with AJ.
I mean, it's already a great match. What else do you want?
Yeah.
What else do you want, though? I mean, what else? I mean, after that, what do you want?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we can go a little bit more. And matter of fact, I feel like if we were 6 months down the line right now, I could have seen AJ winning. Now, obviously, he can't win right now. This is the first guy that Cody's going up against. But I could have seen a program if we're 6-8 months from now where AJ wins and then Cody gets the belt back from him.
I mean, he's just a good, solid veteran to take on. What you're trying to do is you're trying to build Cody as a champion.
Yeah.
And so when you get to SummerSlam, then whatever the big opponent is, that's what it is. It's kind of like Shinsuke in that regard, right? Shinsuke is not even the Shinsuke I saw in New Japan. He's just less than. He's just a good, solid hand, as Jim Ross would say. That's what he is. Because they went around the loop, Zaz. They went around the loop, and Nakamura lost a lot of matches, but it built up Cody. And so the same thing with him being the champion. Like they'll find contenders for him until he gets a big matchup. And I think it's going to be something that's not bloodline related. That's a thing, though, because we're used to saying, all right, it's him against Roman, it's him against Solo. No, it's going to be something else. They got a really good roster, Raw and SmackDown, for Cody to take on, to be able to build him up as champion. I don't want him, because I think ultimately we wait for the story. He's a champion. And now we look forward to him being like the new big match John. But John Cena, as you recall, just when you thought he would lose the match, he would beat JBL and have all these matches under his belt. It built him as a champion. The same thing with Cody Rhodes. They're trying to build him as champion, and rightfully so. I think it's well-deserved. If it's still meat on the bone for AJ, it's going to be a banger. I'm totally fine with it.
Finally here, I'll let you go with this. Who is the young up-and-coming star right now? Maybe they're recently on Raw, recently on SmackDown. Who is the young star that you are most into these days?
So, I love Liv Morgan when she's a heel. I mean, but not just in the middle, because I remember criticizing her a lot, saying, I don't know who you are. Like, I think that we as wrestling fans, it needs to be clearly defined who you are. What do you stand for, right? And I always thought that when Liv Morgan, remember when she was champion, it's kind of like, And she's the champion, but what, right? So,
She was this underdog champion who keeps sneaking out wins.
right. So, but it didn't make sense to me because it's like I still don't know who you are. But I think that if the money is in her being a heel because she put out Rhea Ripley, that's where the belt should go. I think she could be able to carry it because who doesn't resent Liv Morgan? But then it was weird though. Zaz, you saw what I saw. Last time we saw her, she was slapping hands with the fans. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's this now? Like, you put out the supreme attraction in the women's division and Rhea Ripley, you're still a babyface? That's a mistake. That's a mistake. She should be like Greg Valentine to Wahoo McDaniel. When Greg Valentine had the T-shirt that says "I broke Wahoo's leg," when Greg Valentine broke Wahoo McDaniel's leg, he walked around with that T-shirt. It's like, I put out your hero. I put out Wahoo McDaniel. She should have that with Rhea Ripley. The shoulder, whatever. I put out Rhea Ripley, so she can walk around as a heel. She's still young enough to be able to be a heel and run with it. So she's on the top of my list of someone that should be champion 1 and 2, have a heel run until Rhea comes back. Now that's a red hot matchup, I think.
I'll tell you, I can't get enough of Tiffany Stratton. Yes. I think she is incredible in the ring. The character is easy to hate. So she's great on the microphone. She's got the gimmick Tiffy time where the crowd can get behind that. I love Jade Cargill also. I mean, I love this since I put eyes on her in AEW. I mean, that's a super duper star, Jade Cargill, and she'll get there. But Tiffany Stratton, to me, she is phenomenal. If we can get to a place where we get Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair, that's big money to me.
Yeah, I like Tiffany Stratton a lot too, and just it's amazing, Zaz, how sonically some of these people come into NXT, they just knock it out of the park. They come to the main roster, and she looks like she's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's bananas to me because it's like, isn't she still got to learn some things here or there? She moves around so smoothly. That's a difference in wrestling, I'd say 10 years ago and now, where you'd have wrestlers come into the business, they come from the indies or they in the WWE system, and they're still trying to figure out their way. Tiffany Stratton comes in like she's always been there. I look at Logan Paul, for instance. Logan Paul is still young, right? How? The old schoolers are like scratching their head like, wait a minute, how's this guy smooth like Ricky Steamboat already? How does that happen, right? Like a few practice matches, in Orlando, and then and all of a sudden you get to the main roster, it's like, yeah, I got this, easy. We did our practice, no problem. Like not even a step backwards. I just think that's amazing that you could be able to do that. So there's some young talent there. Tiffany Stratton's on that list. Logan Paul's on that list. When Dom comes back, you had a nice heel run with him. I think that for a guy who I didn't like at all, Dominic Mysterio, I go, this guy,
amazing.
Green is goose shit. I'm like, this guy, he doesn't get it. And look at him. Look how quickly he was able to get in a year. Besides the booze, in the ring, solid, where people can respect him. So I like that. So this is what's great about wrestling, is that it always churns out new talent, younger talent. And they're going to, unlike Vince, under Triple H, they will start moving their way up the roster, and all of a sudden they're going to be in major events, the tentpole events for WWE.
I felt bad, when everyone over the last couple of years, forget about the stuff that may have taken place with Vince that was unseemly, the harassment, all that stuff. But the whole, that he's holding the company back, the product's not as good under him, all the I felt bad because he delivered such amazing memories for me as a child, Like I felt bad being negative about that, so I didn't want to be negative about it. And now when you see just how different it is and how much better it is without him, it's like, wow, he really was holding the product back. It's so good right now, Like I guess I didn't want to believe it,
What's going on with Vince right now is, and it's very hard for all of us wrestling fans, but you have to kind of separate the art from the artist. It's hard to do, and we do this all throughout our sports life, right? There might be an athlete that you really like for your favorite team, but you know that he's unseemly, he's an asshole,
he's not good.
He's
bad. Not a good guy. Yeah.
But you try to separate the team from that person. The same thing with Vince. It's kind of like Vince, everything that you read, I mean, he kept feeding you dog food. You liked it because you're a WWE fan. But then you see how things can change in the right way, where it's like the men and women in WWE say, I feel so much more comfortable with Vince being gone. I feel like I have a chance in WWE under Triple H and under this new regime. It tells you all you need to know. By the way, a lot of them respect Vince, but the point is, though, is that the creative was going through his mind and not through a system. That's the difference. All this is not through Triple H's lens. He has the final say, but it's Nick Khan, it's the agents and everyone else that say, hey, Triple H, what about this? Why don't we try this? But under Vince, it was just one person. And so that one person up in his 70s and his 80s, he just didn't have any good ideas anymore. I mean, here's a perfect example of why, Zaz. Did you see after WCW closed what WWE was like? It was the shits. It was the shits. It was terrible because there was no new ideas. There's no competition, so we could just do whatever we want. And people ate dog food for a long time. And now for all those years, we're getting our payback. We're getting our payback of really great wrestling, great storylines, and young wrestlers coming up, and the WWE is better for it. Hey, man, Vince lost the vision. He lost the vision. And so that's why now we're getting what I think is a much better wrestling product.
Jonathan Hood, ESPN 1000, Good Karma Wrestling, every Thursday night, 7 p.m. live. Weekends, Busted Open. There you go, GKW, Good Karma Wrestling. Busted Open on the weekends, the greatest pro wrestling show in the world. Did I miss anything there?
No, because I don't want the government coming in with my W-2s. I don't want them finding out all this other stuff I do. So, no, we'll just leave it right there because they're listening all the time. They're listening.
Excellent job, Jay Hood. Appreciate you, man. Good catching up.
Thank you, buddy.